Hello everybody. In this video lecture, we will cover microscopic structure of the compact bone. And I will use pictures that we did in our classroom. So you will see lots of models that belong to Norca College. And that's what we would use if we had just face-to-face class. So, well, I want to begin talking about two major parts of the skeletal system, and it will be axial skeleton and appendicular skeleton, because this is overview of the skeletal system, and we will talk more about specific bones and structures of all the bones later. But right now, we just want to kind of have this introduction to major bones and their location, right? So if you guys see over here, so let's see if I can, yeah, so that's everything that's shown in brown will be axial skeleton, and that's shown in yellow would be appendicular skeleton. And axial skeleton will include skull, and skull is made of two major parts, cranium and facial bones. Then axial skeletal will include vertebral column and rib cage. And rib cage made of ribs and sternum. So pretty much we have skull, vertebral column, ribs, sternum that are part of the axial skeleton, and everything else will belong to appendicular skeleton. I'm sorry, here we go. So that's our first model of the bone, and bone can be divided into two major groups. We have spongy bone and we have compact bone. So that's a microscopic structure of the compact bone. And maybe I can start with this structure covering bone external surface, and this is called periosteum. And periosteum has these collagen fibers that what they do, they attach periosteum to the bone tissue, and this is called perforating fibers. So periosteum, again, this part, and perforating fibers. Now, bone is very vascular structure, so you can see blood vessels, and blood vessels are found inside the channels, and these channels that are vertical channels, they called central canals, right? So that's a central canal and blood vessel inside the central canal. Here would be another central canal with blood vessel inside the central canal. And now you have these channels that are horizontal, and they are called perforating channels. So remember, those are perforating fibers, and these are perforating channels with blood vessels inside them as well. So the blood vessels are called nutrient artery, and they enter the bone through this foramen over here, and this is called nutrient foramen. Now in periosteum, we would find such cells as osteoblast and osteoclast. Inside the this hard matrix of the bone, we will find cells that are called osteocytes. Now, if you look on this side, and it will be another picture, you also see this gray membrane. Let me see if we can see it better. So that's our periosteum. Right, so that's a periosteum, and yeah, that's inside the bone, and you see the same gray structure. This is called endosteum. So endosteum is also membrane, connective membrane, but it covers bone inside the bone cavities. Right, so this yellow part over here, that's our spongy bone. And the spongy bone and the cavities are covered by end osteum. And an osteum also will have osteocyte, osteoclast and osteoblast cells. Right, so now go back to this picture. So now bone is connective tissue, and as any tissue, bone is made of cells. And here you can see the cells over here. And these cells are major cells of osseous tissue called osteocytes. And osteocytes, they have kind of like these little legs coming out, and they called pseudopods. And what those pseudopods are extension of the cytoplasm, right? And this is this little like hair-like structure. This is called canaliculi, and canaliculi is little channels that what they do, they actually connect this osteocyte to each other. So they connect it. And inside this canaliculi, we will have the pseudopods of the osteocytes. So bone is a tissue, I told you already, so it has living cell, and it has lots of extracellular matrix. So pretty much all this yellow part here that you see, and here and over there as well, this is extracellular matrix. And it's calcified, so it has lots of calcium and phosphorus. And matrix is arranged in the layers. So you see this layer over here, this layer, and those are parallel layer. And those layers are called lamellae. So these layers that parallel to each other is called circumferential lamellae. And here we also have lamellae, but those lamellae are concentric lamellae. So we have circumferential lamellae and we have concentric lamellae. And lamellae are layers of bony matrix. And now if you look over here, you see this structure, right? The same as this structure, like a little circular, this concentric lamellae making the structure that is called osteon. And so we have several osteons over here. And osteon is structural and functional unit of the compact bone. So inside each osteon, you will see central canal. And this is where we have our nutrient arteries, so you can see it over here. We have also veins, we have nerves. Now, you guys see those are lamellae, right? Lamellae that making those rings. And now these dots shown over here, those are pockets of fluid called lacunae. And inside lacunae, we will have our cells, osteocytes, right? And osteocytes have these legs coming out of them that are called pseudopods, and these pseudopods are actually inside this canaliculi, right? So that's a canaliculi. So let's see. So here you also can see the circumferential lamellae, and these lamellae over here are concentric lamellae. So I already covered this diagram a little bit. So that's a cavities inside the bone, right? And this yellow part are spongy bone, and cavities inside the bone, like medullary cavity. And you know, everything inside is covered by endosteum, and endosteum also cover spongy bone. And you can see osteocytes here with their little pseudopods. Also, if you look here, so that's the whole structure here is osteon, and those are our lamellae. And you see these lines, those are actually collagen fibers, and they run in the opposite direction, and it give and it make our bone stronger. It give it both tensile and compressive force because these collagen fibers run in the opposite direction. And you see here our central canal without blood vessel, right? And this is our perforating canal. And we know that nutrient arteries, right, and veins and nerves running through these channels inside the bone. What else we have? Okay, now this is another model, and this just show you structure of a long bone. So this part over here is called epiphysis. Now this part is called diaphysis. So long bones, they have proximal epiphysis that close to the body attachment, and distal epiphysis and diaphysis or shaft. Over here you see white part. This is called articular cartilage. Now these blood vessels are our nutrient arteries in periosteum. Over here, this part, this is a compact bone, and inside we have medullary cavity with a yellow marrow. And yellow marrow is mostly fat. So here we see epiphysis and epiphysis. So again, on the surface, we have a compact bone, and inside, so right here, we have spongy bone. And these cavities inside the spongy bone will have a red bone marrow. Now this line over here, this is line that used to be plate of the cartilage. Now it's only line is left. So this is called epiphyseal line. And this is where it used to be epiphyseal or growth plate. And when the bone stop growing, then obviously this plate closes and we just have line left. On this diagram, you can see the osteon. So the whole structure here is an osteon. And this is nice and circular osteon. It has this concentric lamellae. So we know that that's compact bone. And right over here, you can see circumferential lamellae. So what else we have here? Let's see. No, I don't want any ink left. And yeah, I just want to see how much slides are left. So what I described in this slide, now we can see different part just in a high magnification. Articular cartilage over here that cover epiphysis of a long bone, nutrient arteries that are found in the periosteum, and they enter the bone tissue through this nutrient foramen. So that's number one shown here, it's periosteum. Number two, that's diaphysis. I cannot see this number, but that's epiphysis or articular cartilage. And number four is the medullary cavity. And in this case, we have yellow bone marrow that mostly fat. So that's a bone of adult. So over here, that's our epiphysis. And this is our spongy bone with all these cavities. And inside these cavities, we would find the red bone marrow. And this is where the red blood cells are formed. we call this process hematopoiesis. Yeah, I assume that this is part of the red bone marrow. I'm not sure about it because that's where we have it, right, in a spongy bone. This is compact bone, right? And this number 7, that's epiphyseal line. This is where this bone used to grow through this oppositional growth. So on this picture we see osteon with the central canal. Remember, inside the central canal we have arteries, veins, nerves. Now these rings, either the whole rings, are called lamellae, and those are concentric lamellae. Now this dark part are osteocytes inside the pockets of fluids called lacunae. So it's osteocytes inside lacunae, and these channels, little channels, are canaliculi. And what this canaliculi do, they connect osteocytes together, and they also connect them with the central canal. So when we have oxygen and nutrients in the blood vessels, this oxygen and nutrient can move from the central canal, to the osteocytes, right, through the diffusion. Because bone matrix of a bone is very hard, it would be difficult to diffuse through this calcified matrix. That's why we have these channels called canaliculi, and inside them we have pseudopods. That's our pseudopods of the osteocytes. This is the last one that I have. Okay, so here's the last slide that we have. So number 1 show us periosteum, and here's this little cells here. This is osteoclasts. They're really like huge. And then we have our circumferential lamellae, and we have our osteons, right? And so here's the okay, so here's our osteon, and here's the nerve blood vessels inside the central canal. And when we move towards the central cavity, here where we would have the medullary cavity. Okay, so so these models that we cover can be on your next lab exam. So make sure you guys you can label all these parts and you know their names, right? The same as a part of a long bone. Okay, and that's it for this lecture, and I hope it was helpful.